If you've ever asked yourself the question, where does my money go? You're making money and losing money just as quick, or you're living check to check, or you're thinking to yourself, I will never be rich. I don't know how to get there or what to do with my money. You do not want to miss this episode. You know, mindset matters when it comes to money. Money is important. It's a necessary resource for us, but your relationship to that money is much more important. And today, we're going to be talking about that with the experts right after this. What is mindset? Our mindset is based on what we believe, and anything we believe in, we put into motion. I have spent my life putting the mindset of perseverance into motion, and now I am here today to share my journey along with others whose mindsets have changed the course of their lives. Hi. I'm Mindset Coach Lorraine Lindsey, and I believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. So are you ready? Welcome back to another episode of The Mindsetters, where we believe that if you can change your mind, you have the power to change your life. I am your host, Coach Lorraine Lindsey, a certified peak performance and life coach and mindset coach. And before we get into today's show, there's a lot for us to talk about. We're getting into this money conversation. Do not forget to hit the subscription button. Give us a thumbs up, send us your comments. And if there's content or topics that you would like us to talk about, let us know. Again, I appreciate the continued support. We are growing and I am appreciative. So subscribe and share. All right. So without further ado, I want to get right into this show. I am excited about this topic because it touches home. It's a struggle that I had with myself when I started to grow and make money. And I have two wonderful guests. One's a reoccurring and a new guest to really share and be the expert on this topic. So let me introduce my fabulous women on the panel today. So first and foremost, Miss Ashley Nichols is returning to the show. And a little bit about Ashley. She is born and raised in Las Vegas. Ashley attended UNLV, where she received her bachelor's in business management. She then went on to pursue her MBA and emphasized in organizational behavior. Ashley moved to San Diego shortly after, where she obtained her Juris doctor from California Western School of Law. She was recruited over to the financial firm organizing a JD financial planning team, and that's where she began her career in financial planning. Having her own experience with financial hardships while being her father's caretaker, she wholeheartedly believes in the value of financial planning and knows how much it can truly help people. Ashley primarily works with attorneys and business owners, but her mission is to help as many people as she can achieve their financial goals and dreams. So Ashley, thank you so much.
Hello.
I noticed you didn't put in there your that you're a wonderful, amazing actress.
I didn't.
You know?
I wasn't sure how much to put about myself in there.
Yeah, but that's like your thing too, girlfriend.
Is,
you know,
yeah.
You're beautiful in all aspects, mind, body, spirit, the whole nine.
You.
So thank you for coming back.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate, because I'm excited to introduce our next guest, who you were like, you got to have her on the show. And then I started looking at her content and everything. And I was like, yes, I do.
Yeah.
And when can she come on? So let me introduce our next guest. This is Lisa Chastain, right? Chastain.
Yeah.
I'm like, I got to say this right. All right. Lisa is a best-selling author, radio show host, and money coach who has gained international recognition for inspiring women to stop budgeting so they can build wealth and spend their money guilt-free. And I love that stop budgeting thing. And we're going to talk about that. With over 2 decades of experience in coaching and mentoring women, Lisa's expertise is making financial dreams a reality is highly sought after. Despite facing personal financial challenges, Lisa was able to rebuild her life and business after hitting rock bottom. She now shares her unique real money formula, a blend of personal finance fundamentals and money mindset to help women become financially savvy and independent. Lisa's dedication to empowering women to achieve financial freedom has earned her recognition from top media outlets such as CNBC, the Oprah Magazine, Entrepreneur, Fortune, and Cosmo. Her mission is to inspire women across the country to become financial leaders in their own lives. Through her coaching and mentorship, Lisa teaches women how to simplify their finances, reduce stress, and lead fulfilling, worthy lives. With her guidance, women can break through financial barriers and achieve their dreams. Love it. Lisa, thank you for being here. This is I feel like a much needed topic. Yeah. I always see podcasts and shows and things that are talking about money and steps to get to financing and the budgeting thing. But I feel like what we don't hear is relationships to money. And I've been watching some of your content, and I love that in some of the interviews, it was like, well, what do I think and feel about money, and why is that why my money is disappearing? And I can so relate to that. So I kind of want to tap into the misconceptions first with money. Okay. So what are some misconceptions you feel that people have with money, Lisa?
Oh my gosh, where do we start?
Yeah.
Where do we start, Ashley? First of all, I did not know you were an actress.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Misconceptions. That it's hard.
Mm.
That you have to have it to be good at it, or you have to have been raised around it to be good at it. A lot of people believe like, hey, that's just not my destiny. That's for other people to be successful financially. For women, I was on CNBC talking about how women get the bad rap of being emotional spenders and bad with money. And that's not true.
Absolutely.
Gosh, I could go on and on about misconceptions about money, but I think ultimately coming down to your relationship with money, everyone has their own misconceptions about themselves, about money.
There's the correlation.
That's it.
Absolutely. Love that. What do you feel that are some misconceptions?
So the biggest one is that people think that they need to have it in order to start planning, or I don't have enough of it yet, or I'm not ready yet. And so what they fail to understand is you need to be proactive first and set a really good foundational grounding of where's my money going, what's coming in, what's going out. And Lisa's even helped me with this, is get very clear on what you have, even if you feel like you don't have enough. That's where it starts. So I get people all the time where I'm like, hey, let's do a meeting. And they're like, in a year, or when I have X amount of money saved, or after I buy this house. And it's really should start
yesterday,
like at 18.
Right,
yeah.
right.
When you go up on your own, like it should start then.
And that's so true too, because I think another big misconception are a few things. Number one, leading to what you're saying, is sometimes we think we have to have a certain amount of money, or we're embarrassed to show what we have, or that we're mismanaging it. Even when we're seeking help, it's almost like you feel like you got to have it all together. Yeah. It's like when you go to the dentist, right? And you're like, okay, I'm going to extra floss and extra brush.
Yes.
But it's there, and that's what they're there for, right?
Exactly.
I think as it pertains to women, the misconception is, what will my spouse or my significant other think if I make more, or if I am more, privy or understanding of money, or if I have more intellectual understanding or a better relationship. I think sometimes women think that they have to kind of stay beneath that, and it's maybe the man's job to do that.
Right.
And then also the misconception, I think for me personally, is not feeling guilty about wealth, or not feeling guilty about having money, because it's the root of all evil. Well, if I have wealth and I have money and I gain riches, is that going to change me? Yeah, well, it may, but for the better, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be negative.
Right. Right.
I think you really hit the nail on the head too about the embarrassing part. I have a really strong hospitality background, and it does, especially in Vegas, like mostly people in hospitality, they make a lot of money, but they tend to not know what to do with it, or manage it improperly. And I've had a lot of people who have actually expressed that, like, I know I should have saved this, or I know I should have done this, but I really don't have anything. And it's like, we're not, like in our profession, we're not here to judge you. We're here to help you. So I'm glad that even you've recognized that, and you're not even in this industry, but in financial anyways, but it's definitely something that comes up a lot.
One thing that we point out when it comes to misperceptions in my world a lot is that you actually inherited those misconceptions about money. Even just hearing you both speak, those came from, actually, I know you've done a lot of work in the money world, we all have, but those come from our family. Those limiting beliefs, those misconceptions, those ideas were actually, we inherited them. They were imprinted on us when we were really young. And we have to work actively to be able to overcome that, because then we're comparing ourselves to our past and our mindset that we inherited. And then we're looking out at the rest of the world thinking everybody else has their, we cuss on this?
Yeah, of course.
Everyone else has their shit together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
That's actually far from the truth.
So far.
Well, let's talk about that. We have a cover of your book here, I found. And Lisa's written this book, which is Girl, Get Your Shit Together, right?
Yep.
And it is about, it says, control your money, live purposefully, and love your life. And money is a resource. It is a necessary thing, and it isn't a bad thing.
Right.
It isn't a bad thing. And exactly what you said, if you come from generations where there was poverty or poverty thinking, right? I always tell people there's a difference between rich and wealth.
Yeah.
To be rich is to look at a bank account and say, this is the money and whatever that means to you. I mean, I worked in the gaming industry for years and dealt with millionaires and billionaires. And what I learned in that world was, money is really relative. $1,000, $1 million, it all depends on what your bottom line is and what that means to you, right?
It's super relative. I have clients, I'll be sitting across from them and they're like, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm like, well, do you mind sharing with me what that means? They're like, yeah, I've got $1,000 in the bank account. My life is solid.
Yeah.
And that's because how they were raised and how they saw money. $1,000 is a lot of money.
Right.
Or I have clients who run multi-million-dollar businesses who feel broke all the time.
Right.
It's that relationship we have and the meaning that we assign to a number where it's like, whoa, let's figure out what the facts are here. Let me help you understand what the facts are versus how you're interpreting all of this and what you believe is actually going on.
So let's go into that. Let's talk about that. I put a few bullet points together, but the next thing is the relationship to your money. What is our relationship to money? So let's kind of delve into that so people can see the correlation. Because again, I talk a lot about mindset in terms of relationships, in terms of building a business, in terms of women empowerment, whatever, the list goes on. But we never really talk about money. The understanding is I would like to have some and I'd like to have more of it, but really digging deep. So if you ladies can kind of share how important is your relationship to money? And I love what you said about the pathology and the association to that.
Well, first, everyone needs to acknowledge and know, and I'm calling everybody out to know that you do have a relationship with money, whether you like to think about it or not. Some people are not in relationship with their money because they don't know their money. They're not looking at their money. They're not tracking their net worth. They never learned how. And so they have a false relationship with money or a false idea of what's really going on. One of my favorite things to do with clients is to calculate their net worth because they'll come and sit in front of me and talk about how broke they are. And we'll calculate their net worth. This just happened, actually. I calculate their net worth. I go, you guys are millionaires.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
What's up? And it's that belief system. And without actually knowing or being able to see the facts and understand what the facts really mean, there's a lot of emotion going on. And so the simple formula is your beliefs plus your behaviors equal your bank account. And in life coaching context, it's your belief plus behavior equal your results. And I just bring it straight into your bank account. The results you have in your bank account is the result of your mindset plus how you're taking action with your money.
God, I love that. And you know how powerful that is for me. This is the epiphany I made for myself. I was always very, very driven, right? And I would tell myself, I got to make this much money to have these things. And so I would literally seek out anything that would pay me. I remember my first job, I was like, I need to make $13 an hour in order to take care of me and my son, right? And I would only apply for jobs that would pay 13. And then I got the first job, it was $13.50. I'm like, oh, this works.
Yeah.
And I kind of always had that kind of thing. Then I got the big job, right? And the big job was a 6-figure thing. And no one in my life, again, pathology, anybody that, my friends, my family, there was no one who had made that kind of money. So for me, $100,000 plus was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And how am I going to do this? And it was this fear of success that kicked in. Then what started happening is I got comfortable with making the money. But anytime my bank account and my savings go above that threshold, I would just burn it. I didn't know why I was doing it. And I would say, I just made this fat bonus or this money over here or this investment paid off. And the money would be gone. It's just as quickly it was there.
Yeah.
And I would get frustrated and I would go through all these emotional cycles until I had to realize I don't believe that there's any more than this.
Right.
And so I'm squandering money because there's this subconscious belief system that doesn't feel I'm deserving of building that to a greater level. I didn't have the next thing. So kind of tap into that a little bit because I can relate. Yeah. And that was an epiphany for me to really check in.
That's huge.
I think so I've had clients like that, but then also quite the opposite, where they have a lot of money like at their disposal, just in a savings account, and don't want to do anything with it. And I'm like, well, explain to me why. What's the hesitation? Why do you just need control of it? Do you need to just see it to know that it's there because they're scared to do something with it, or like that fear of loss or whatever that looks like? And I know with one of my clients in particular, it very much, and it's kind of when I started tapping into like the psychology of things, and which is like, I'm so grateful to meet Lisa because like that's what she does. But I started to like, in my industry, it's typically not that way. It's very transactional. What do you need? What asset protection do you need? Where are we putting investments? That's it. It's not, okay, why are you thinking the way that you are? Why are you not comfortable with doing what I'm recommending? Where is that disconnect? And then me saying like, okay, let's take a step back and understanding. So for this one client, it was like, that's how she grew up. And this is how her parents are. And it's very just within the family. It's just inherent within her now because that's how she grew up. So it's just like with anything, like your environment and the things that you're taught when you're younger. And then also as you get older, like other things that you're experiencing. So I don't know necessarily, and Lisa might be able to talk to this, like what causes it.
Yes, and what causes it?
I do.
Yeah.
And then where does one start to discover it and to kind of tap into it?
Okay. This is really crazy. When I learned this, it was like a huge light bulb went on. Our brains are not capable of seeing what does not exist within us.
That's deep. Say that again for the people in the back.
Our brains are not capable of seeing what does not exist within us. And in the similar concept, perception is projection. So when we see someone out in the world and we have a judgmental conversation going on about money, that'll come out. Or we're judging ourselves, that'll come out. When we can't see, because we can't recognize what doesn't exist with us, if we were never raised in a household, in an environment where there was an excess or where there was an abundance or where there was more than $10 in a bank account, even unconsciously, we make up what that means. So if in the absence of being around wealth, we create our own ceilings. So whatever that number was for you, for me, it was $54,000 a year in income because my dad never made more than $60,000 a year. That was my ceiling. I could not see what was possible on the other side. Your brain can't recognize it. So the reason you kept getting rid of it, maybe it could have been an unworthiness conversation for a lot of people. It is.
For sure.
And also you were not capable of understanding even what was possible to the next level because your brain didn't recognize it.
Wow, that's powerful. It makes so much sense.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what do we do about that? In my world, it's about role modeling. We have to, every time we hit a limiting belief, we get stuck at that limiting belief until we can break through it. I know being a peak performance coach, you get that. So we have to have people who are willing to help us break through our own limiting beliefs and stretch us to the next level. And then one of the exercises that I do in my workshops is called the $1 Million Exercise. Well, if you want to be a millionaire, maybe you think that you could be, but you have no idea how to get there. So what do you do with $86,000 a month? You have to teach your brain how to see it and role model it. So finding mentors and role models is one of the best ways. Good coaches, mentors, and role models who can show you what can be done.
Success leaves clues. And I love what you said, because I always tell people you have to be able to see it in your mind's eye first. And again, going into what is the narrative? What are you telling yourself? And checking in and tapping in. And for me, I had a number in my mind that this meant whatever it meant to me. I had a narrative to what it meant. I didn't have a story to go beyond that. That was the end of the book. And yet being around people who were wealthy because of the job that I was in, it helped me. One of the things that I started to recognize is like, okay, what's happening here? I knew to ask the question. I didn't know the answer, but I knew to ask myself the question. And then asking, okay, if I'm asking the question, I have to seek the answer somehow. And that was with me saying, okay, if I see someone who's wealthy, or my perception of them being wealthy, because I really don't know, right? I need to just ask them questions and pick their brains and see how they think and their psychology. And I would even read books like The Mind of a Millionaire and things like that to say, okay. Okay. And again, like you said, that mentorship and finding people to say and being able to recognize a thing and then saying, hey, let me seek out some help and get that help. Yeah.
So finding mentors, finding role models, challenging your own belief system. Those are some key things to do.
Absolutely. And I did read that book too, and it's a really good one.
It's a great book,
And it does prompt you in there to say, okay, what is your first memory of money? Whatever that looks like. Is it something that your parents taught you? Anything revolving, like what is your first memory? And then it kind of takes you into, if that's your first memory, then that's why you're building the habits around that you're doing now, you know? And that was actually one of the first books that made me think like the psychology behind it. Because it's with anything. It's just our behaviors. So it's a great book. Yeah.
Another thing too, that I want to ask you ladies is that when we think about money, I think, and I'm kind of circling back to the whole misconception thing, is I think we see a lot of people portraying a happy life as it ties to wealth, and wealth looking luxurious, meaning I have tangibles, I have these things. And so I think sometimes when we feel like that's not necessarily where I want to be, then we find fault in that, or I'm not there yet, and we punish ourselves with our wealth. So how important is it for us to really understand what success and what money means to us?
It's crucial. It's crucial. Otherwise, we'll end up living, which is what happened to me in my 20s and 30s, we'll end up living someone else's idea of success.
Right.
And we'll end up living someone else's life. So in my world, one of the first things we do is get really clear about what are your priorities, what are your values, what's your vision for your life. That can be challenging because they may not know, but you have to get quiet because the answers are within.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just going to say that like what one person's success might not be what you deem as success, right? But I will say that I've seen a lot where, especially I live in San Diego, right? So it's a lot of people who run around that act like they have a lot of money, and it might seem like they have a lot of money, but that's not the actual reality.
Yeah. Right.
So it's very important to never compare yourself to someone else and what they're doing, because it's just going to cause stress and anxiety for you.
Right.
And just like Lisa said, like dial down and understand like what do I want? What does success look like for me? And what does abundance look like for me? And like where do I want it? A lot of people say freedom. Like I want freedom. And that's what money means to them, you know, and being able to be happy or contribute to society however they want to contribute. But you really do have to figure out, what does that mean? You know, does it mean that so-and-so has like a big house on the beach and that's exactly how you want to live? I don't know. But, you know, comparing yourself is just not.
And that's so key, like the freedom thing. Because I've heard this a lot too when I coach people, is I just want to feel free. It's like, okay, that's a word.
Yeah.
How do we define it?
Yeah.
What does that look like for us, right?
Yeah.
Because there is success and then there's fulfillment. And they're not always the same. When we think of success, we think of this monetary thing. And for me personally, when I was able to buy the big monstrous house and have all the luxury cars and do all of these things, because that's what I was squandering my money on, there was a gap, there was a void. I was not happy. And then that's how I got the golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
Because now I'm keeping up with a facade, if you will. I was able to afford those things, but it wasn't really tapping into fulfillment.
Right.
And I thought that getting and earning a certain amount of money was going to make me feel happy.
Yeah.
And again, understanding what is my relationship with money, and what is that thing that I'm telling myself that money's going to solve for me. And the root was that I didn't feel like I was enough.
Right.
And money wasn't going to solve that problem for me.
Amen.
Right. I had to tap in and say, well, why don't I feel like I'm enough? Because I see it a lot, kind of what you're saying to people, especially in this city, right?
Yeah,
where people
I guess it's Vegas
will
too.
make money and they have money and they have luxury and things like that, but they're just so
Miserable.
empty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were, what would you say about that? And how does one, when you're coaching and you're talking to people, how do you really get them to tap into that? Like, where is a great place for someone to start?
There's so many great ways to tap in. I would say the first thing is learning how to tap into your unconscious mind. You typically can't do this on your own. So that's the first step, is you have to realize that there's lots and lots of books out there.
Yeah.
I'm an author. I get that. And the same mindset that got you into the life that you have today will not be the same mindset that gets you to a different place.
Yes.
Not even the word out, but just get you somewhere different.
Right.
And the best way that you can, the best shameless plug, I guess, for coaches is to find someone who can help you tap into your unconscious brain. Because when I ask questions about money, and a lot of people ask questions about money, about what's important to you, the first thing that someone will answer is coming from their conscious mind, or what they think they should say.
Right.
Versus what's really true. So asking questions, learning how to ask deeper questions. One of my favorite exercises is, just to summarize, it's like a what else exercise. Well, what's important about money to you? Freedom. What else? Joy. What else? What else? What else? And I share this exercise in my book. What else? What else? Because at some point you'll break through that conscious mind barrier and tap into your own unconscious mind where the answers really are.
Where the layer, yeah, you pulling back the layers, right?
That's right.
I had a girl on the show recently. She said it's the 7 whys. I ask why 7 times.
Oh, wow.
Because then it gets to that core, and that's the unearthing that needs to take place, and it's uncomfortable, right? When I right now, for example, perfect example is I'm working with a guy now, and he was incredibly like impoverished. He came from a third world environment, came into the United States, and by happenstance, right, he saw a piece of paper on the floor and it had a number, and he called the number and it gave him this delivery job. Well, that delivery job ended up earning him millions and millions of dollars, because he took it from being the technician in the job to really, he just had that mind that was curious, and then he started building. The problem was that he still feels and thinks like he's still poor. And so he is working like crazy, doesn't want to delegate, doesn't want to scale and make sure people, because he's so afraid that if I let it go, I'll lose it all.
And it'll never be enough.
And it'll never be enough, you know? And I would ask him, well, what is that about? What is that really, truly about? And he's like, I just can't ever be living in a car again. I can't ever I don't want to ever feel hungry again. And me trying to get him to see that you've already figured that out. You're so ambitious that will never happen, but he doesn't believe it, that he doesn't have that switch in his mind.
I think that it's really important to teach and to learn how to quantify financial success, because there can be our internal operating systems, our internal beliefs about money. And then with with Ashley's world is, how do we help someone quantify what wealth really is and understand how to really protect wealth? There's a really great book out there called What Would the Rockefellers Do? Not that I totally am a huge proponent.
I have it.
I'm not a huge proponent of like whole life insurance for everyone, but so it goes into a deeper conversation about what that is. But it talks about how the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers built wealth and how they kept wealth so differently. And you get to, if you're committed to having wealth, one, you need to work on your mindset, and then you need to educate yourself and understand what wealth really means financially, and how do you hold on to wealth, and how do you invest it? How do you protect it? I work with clients weekly who are committed to keeping wealth, because I make them look at, which they're like, oh, Lisa, like we are going to look at your money all the time, because we're going to train your brain how to see your money. Not from a belief system, but from a fact.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's important. And I think like with what I do when I'm sitting down with my client, it's like, okay, you can build it in a lot of ways, but it's the why, like how you were saying. And I think with that guy too, it's like that fear factor behind, like he doesn't want to be homeless, he doesn't want to do this, but then it's reaching out to other professionals who can help you tap into that is really important. And so with me, I'm asking my clients, well, why, like how Lisa said, like, why do you want to do this? Like, what are we actually saving for? What are we actually building for? Like, what are we protecting? And it all comes down to why, like, why do you want to do it? Because otherwise, then it's just there,
right.
You know, it has no meaning to it, has no value to it. You're just doing it, but you don't have those concrete goals. And then once we're able to like, okay, a year from now, I want to buy a house, or a year from now, I want to start a foundation, or whatever that looks like. And all the work that we did within that year, then that gives you like that sense of worth and value and purpose. Like this is why I've been doing what I've been doing with my money. So it just builds that emotion to it. And I think it just adds so much more value to your life. I mean,
yeah. And it's interesting because now as you all are talking, I'm thinking about the different types of people and how they see money, right? Like you said, there's the one who save.
Yeah.
They live, you know, they penny pinch, and they don't want to touch anything, and they live very, they hoard their money, and they just got to see it, right? And they're scared of losing any penny, right? It's like, this is it. This is a saving. These are the traditional ways. I'm not touching it. And then there's the ones who make the money and it keeps coming in and they feel like it's never going to end. That pot of gold is always going to be there and I'll just keep spending.
Yeah.
You see this with athletes.
Yeah.
Right? This is a big athletes or overnight sensations.
People who win the lottery.
Lotteries. And then you're like, how do they have millions and millions of dollars and then they're broke?
Yeah.
And it boils down to that relationship. How do you see money? What were you taught about money? Mm-hmm. And again, you only have so many tools in your toolbox, right?
That's right.
I always tell people, I use this metaphor a lot. I'll say, do you want to build the shelf called life, right? What tools are we working with here? Because you are telling yourself, I can build this shelf. It looks easy. It seems simple, what have you. But what do you have? Well, I got duct tape.
Yeah.
I got some plywood and I got some thumbtacks.
Right.
Okay, you can probably get the shelves to look like they're stable. But if you put anything on it, it's going to fall apart. Yeah. Why? It's not because you didn't have the vision. It's not that you don't have the idea. It's not even that you didn't try. You just don't have the tools.
Yeah.
You don't have the right tools. And maybe you don't know what those things are. And again, circling back, is find the people to help you get the tools to have those things. So my question then, Lisa, is how does somebody get rich?
Yeah.
How do we do it? Like what are the steps to making money?
Oh gosh, getting rich. Well, number one, learn how to invest in yourself.
Yeah.
In yourself. I love that. Expound upon that.
Learn how to invest in yourself. Learn how to get people around you. Every successful person that I follow has a team of people around them that challenges them, calls them out on their bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? Helps them get to that next level, confront their mindset. And also when it comes to money, I'm a big proponent of finding trustworthy people and learn how to vet trustworthy people.
Ooh, that's key.
Yeah, it's really key. Just
how
like
does
my
somebody
husband.
vet? Because that's hard. That is hard.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but the gentleman I was talking about, he doesn't know. So he trusts everybody. In the beginning, he would trust anybody that sounded like they knew more than he did.
Yep.
And then he would get just robbed.
It's hard.
So how does someone vet then?
Do your homework. And just like a job interview, sit down and talk to people and see if they have the same value system as you. See if you can get them past that first sales conversation and get them into a real conversation about what's really matters to them.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to, and I just did this with a group that I just hired, don't be afraid to go out and interview people that they've worked with. Because the best people to talk to are people that they've worked with, because they'll tell you what's really real about them. And so that people, if you're not yet, so like in the financial advisor world, there's a misconception that certain people won't work with you. Actually, it's a reality. I wouldn't even say it's a misconception that certain people won't work with you until you have a certain amount of assets. So find the right people for where you are.
Yeah.
And are they getting the people that they're working with to the next level?
Yeah.
So do your homework and just have the courage to go ask them, hey, can I buy you a coffee? And can I have a conversation with you? Who are you working with? How are you working with them? In the financial space, that's where most people are successful, is to find a group of people that know more than you, but are getting other people those same results. Yeah. So that's step one. Invest in yourself and then find the right people who are going to support you. And then be willing to stretch outside your comfort zone.
Yes, that's so important.
If you never had money and now you want to have money, the act of having money will feel less safe than not having money because you've survived not having money your whole life. Debt, Ashley and I had this conversation, being in debt feels safe if you've been in debt your whole life.
Right.
Because it's
being in
familiar.
debt feels safe.
Yes.
So you have to stretch outside your comfort zone to not be in debt, to have money in the bank. The first question is, okay, I've got $100 in my bank account. What am I going to do with it? Or I have $10,000 in my bank account. What am I going to do with it? It doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
Gosh, that is so profound. I mean, I'm even letting that sink in a little bit because that is so fundamentally true.
Yeah.
If we are such creatures of habit, and I've been talking about this a lot lately because I've been reading a lot about the power of habit and people's habitual, the way they are and what's so familiar to us and how we become, we're literally on autopilot a lot of times. This is why it's so important to tap in. Yeah. And exactly what you said, if broke is familiar and my mantra and belief system is that I'm just a broke person, it gets into your psyche.
Yeah.
That's a command, right? And I always say this over and over, whatever you say is a command on your life. All you're telling your brain is what to go look for.
Right.
So if I'm broke, I'm never going to have any money. Oh my gosh, I'm check to check, all these bills. It's like, okay, that's what you want. That's what you're looking for. And you're exactly right. You get the money and you're like, wait a minute. It's like the Roadrunner and the Coyote. I remember as a little girl, I'd watch this cartoon and it would drive me crazy because he could never freaking catch this freaking Roadrunner.
Yeah.
And there was one episode where he caught the freaking Roadrunner.
Right.
He had him by the neck and he did his little meet. He didn't know what to do with that thing and he let him go and the chase started all over and I was like, no. But it's kind of life, right? We're chasing something and then when we get it, we don't know what to do with it. So we let it go and we start to chase all over because it's familiar.
What I refer to it anyways, like it's a paralysis of even decision making at that point because you just, like you said, don't know what to do with it. So it's there and then like you said, like you just, what do I do? Who do I talk to? Where do I go? And so that's why it's really important also to have these professionals behind you to help you really organize and be talking to each other. So you asked, you know, how do you vet people? For me, it's a lot about, are they trying to build a relationship with you or are they just being very transactional? Are they listening to your actual goals and dreams or are they like, yeah, okay. And then they're just going about what they know how to do. I'd be very wary of people who are just pushing products on you, you know, not to say that there are products that can't be useful, that there are. Right. But a lot of the time, especially in this industry, it's like, maybe they can only really offer you one thing. And so that's all they're going to offer you without being transparent. Like, hey, this is all I can do, but you might not need this. So why don't you go talk to this person? Sometimes there's stuff that I can't do for someone. And I'm like, you know what? Let me refer you to the CPA or let me refer you to Lisa because I can't do anything for you right now, but I want you to talk to other people. So I think, and you can find that like genuineness with a lot of people. And so that's kind of a way to be able to decipher who you want to work with and who you don't, and just like matching of personalities in general, you know? But yeah. So
going back to the steps to building wealth and getting rich. The other thing I would say, the third thing is that people who have it, like listening to Wade and Dyer, people who have it figured out and are like building ultra wealthy lives are not in current circumstances. They're not talking about their current circumstances. They're already in building and they're talking about manifesting and all the things that they want to create. And that's a really important distinction, is where are you placing your focus? Because wherever you focus, it'll expand.
Absolutely. 100%. That is so true. It is so true.
Yeah.
You know, and I know it's cliche to say, but it's what you focus on, it grows. And it truly, really does. And I see people all the time, and it's so beautifully said. It's like, are you in your circumstances? Are you in it where you dance with it and it's controlling the emotions and this is the narrative? Or can you empower yourself to be above what's happening? It's like, think of yourself as elevated. I mean, I literally have people write it all down. Let's illustrate it here and then stand up, look down on it and talk about it. You got to remove yourself and say, look how small this is. And the more you stand up, the smaller it gets because you're outside of it now. And again, like earlier, what you said is, and find a way to get some of the noise away from you to be still and know, you know, stay silent. Because I know for me, when I'm troubled and I allow it to be triggers to get me to an emotional peak state that is not supporting me, I can't be rational in my mind. I'm so emotionally driven. So I have to allow myself, again, the mindfulness to say, all right, this is a trigger. It's making me feel stressed, anxiety, depressed, sad, whatever. Let me go through it. Let me own it for a second. And then let me take a step back and say, okay, I'm calm now. Let's really look at this and where I can be empowered to make changes for this.
Absolutely.
I think you definitely have to, at that point, know to like reach outside of yourself. So recently I've been in that situation where like my mind is just crazy. I wake up and I'm super stressed out, you know, whatever's happening within my business and like, who do I talk to? And I really had to be like, okay, relax and just use your resources. So like, that's how we got introduced, really. Because I would just picked up the phone and I'm like, hey, I have this situation. Can you introduce me to somebody who like knows what I'm going through or can help me or like give me guidance? And so similar to you, like you have to really silence yourself and not like freak out about everything and let like that stress and emotion get to you.
Right.
And understand that reaching out outside of yourself is helping you in turn. Yeah.
Gosh, there's a couple of things that come to mind. The first thing is that, like, we just watched this, I forget the name of the movie. I don't think it really matters, but A Journey of a Boxer. And he was going to get back in the ring, and how much athletes train for one fight.
Yeah.
And financially, I don't think that people are trained to stay in the fight.
Yep.
You build, and you fall down or you fail.
Yeah.
And that somehow that defines us. But the average millionaire gains and loses their millionaires or their millions over and over again. Is that we have to learn how to become financially resilient and stay in the fight, whatever that looks like for us.
So fail forward.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And learn. And that every time we learn, we'll be different because of it. And how we approach the next situation will be different.
Yeah.
I think that's really important when it comes to mindset. I've been just a connoisseur of stories, which is why I have my show and why I tell stories, is because I want to know how people get where they get. Where did you start? What happened? Where did you get? So by listening to other people's stories and being willing to just follow people and understand their own journeys also, you'll be able to become more flexible and resilient yourself.
And also, too, the more you share, the more you find people that have relatable stories and have persevered.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I mean, I went through, again, not having the pathology and anyone really around that could teach me. Not that I blame it or I'm mad about it or whatever. I just didn't have it, right? It's not a sob story. It's just a reality, right? And so I had the fortitude to try things and want things because I did recognize that I wanted something different. So I had that and I was blindly pursuing it. But ultimately it led me to purchasing properties at the wrong time, bankrupting myself. I was completely bankrupt. And in that moment, I had a decision to make. Is this bankruptcy going to control me and keep me stuck here,
right?
Where I'm never going to try to purchase anything ever again. I'm going to be super conservative. I'm going to live in this little hermit because it was detrimental, it was damaging, it was emotional, and it was embarrassing, right? There was all of these things that I went through.
Yeah.
Or am I going to say, what's the lesson?
Yeah.
What did I learn from this experience? What were the choices I made and this and that? And I set out a mission. This is never going to freaking happen to me again. And I'm going to take these new tools because the failures gave me new tools in my bucket, right?
Like,
and I'm like, all right. And so what did I do? I took classes on bankruptcy. I understood what that meant. I understood what it was going to take me to rebuild my credit. And lo and behold, I mean, I remember they told me you're going to have to wait 3 years before you can buy a house. Okay, don't just tell me 3 years. Tell me exactly what needs to happen in those 3 years. And I followed that to a T. I swear on the anniversary, on the third year, I walked into a bank and I said, I'm buying a house and I know that I qualify.
Good for you.
And that changed everything. And that led me to rebuilding my, better than it was even before.
Yeah, I love that.
But there was this thing and this stigma that I had about having great credit and all these things because no one had done it. And I had so much pride. So when I was losing all of that, I went into a depression because I had an identity construct to it. And I had to shed some of that and say, okay, that was your identity then. What's your identity going to be now? And how are you going to move forward with that and build upon what you've learned?
Yeah.
And I think that that's valuable for people who are out there who are struggling and trying to figure out, like, how do I do this? I think first is the fact that you asked the question is a powerful way to start.
Absolutely. And I think, and you hit it, is educating yourself. Education is so important. So Lisa does it. When I sit down with my clients, I do it. I'm like, I want you to understand how this works and how it's going to affect you. I want you to, from a broad conceptual standpoint, know how the market works and what a risk tolerance means. And so that we're talking about it now. So kind of when you're really educated on something and you, like you said, you understood bankruptcy and like what that entailed, you know? And so when you're talking about it now and you're like, okay, a year from now, if the market goes however it goes, we had this conversation. So it kind of takes the emotional volatility out of things when you really know what you're doing and why you're doing it and how everything works as it pertains to you.
Right.
So that's like that sets you up for a really strong foundation, just knowing.
Right. You know, Tom Bilyeu, he says this all the time. I love watching his Impact Theory podcast. And he says, knowledge, the more knowledge you gain helps you with your predictions.
Yeah.
And then you could make better decisions. Not every decision you're going to make is going to be the right decision. But the more knowledge you gain and the more openness you have to gain when it's failed to fail forward, then the more you can do a better job at making predictions for yourself and really creating visions where you can put a plan into motion.
Every person that I've interviewed on my podcast, and we talk about what was the thing? What was the thing that made a difference for you? And we determine success by our own. Like on my show, I don't determine what success means. I bring on everyday people.
Yeah.
And the one thing every single person has said that they were just willing to do the work.
Yeah.
They were willing to do the work. And you won't, no one will get where they really want to be in life if they aren't willing to dive in and do the work.
Yeah.
And it is not easy some days. And it can be very messy. And somehow with money, there's this perception that it's supposed to look perfect, but transformation is messy.
It is. And that is what people don't say, right? They're like, I'm transformed. Look at me. Look how amazing I am. Buy my, my stuff. But it's like, no, let's talk about the journey. Yeah. It is messy.
Yeah. There's people that are going to support you. There's people that aren't going to support you. When I went through my divorce, my family they did not support me. They were the people that I thought that would support me the most. But I did it anyway.
Yeah.
I did it anyway.
Man, that is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. And also, by the way, and that's another crippling thing as I circle back to the money thing. Sometimes we don't make money or have wealth because we're afraid we're going to lose people.
Yeah.
Amen.
And the reality is you will. And so let them go.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Bye. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to, when I started building wealth for myself, emotionally, mentally, and financially, right? Because building wealth is all things,
it's
right?
Holistic, yeah.
And when I really started doing that, I would get people who were comfortable with me being the old me.
Yeah.
And they were like, you've changed. And I'm not afraid of that. I used to be afraid of people telling me that I've changed. And it's like, no, I have.
Yeah.
But that's growth.
Right.
I have to change. If I was a seed and I watered it, it'd become, a little... whatever you call it, a little bud. And then, I'm working on my orchard here. Like, I'm changing. I'm still the same at the essence. The seed is the seed. That's the essence of who I am.
Yeah.
But I'm allowed to expand that. And by the way, if you're not comfortable with that, I still love you.
Yeah.
But stay where you're at. I mean, it's fine. You come with or you go.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so we can't be afraid of building wealth and having the things that we know we want and desire for our heart because we're afraid that people are going to judge us or be upset with us about that.
I just ordered this book. I've seen it before. I teach it in my seminars with Bronnie Ware, I think is her name. She wrote a book about the 5 regrets of the dying.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And the top regret, she's a nurse and in hospice, and she interviewed people. Have you read the book?
No.
Okay.
That's something I
highly recommend it.
Yeah.
She wrote a book about all the interviews, hundreds and hundreds of people. And the number one regret of the dying was that they regretted not living their life that was their purpose.
Yeah.
Because someone held them back.
Yep.
And our fear of losing people is real. When I stepped out to write my book, when I stepped out to start my business, my family, I didn't talk to them for years. And that was a huge fear of mine of losing them. And I had to be willing to risk that to follow my dream and follow my purpose. And I didn't burn bridges.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, this is the new me, Lisa 2.0. And now there's a 3.0 and a 4.0. And I can still be love and I can still be purposeful and peaceful with my family. I refuse to be who I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Right.
You have to be willing to go on that journey to create wealth.
Right.
To create something that you don't already have, I should say, because some people have the money, but they just want something different.
Right.
You've got to be willing to grow and let people go.
And let people go and just be obedient to your call. That's the thing. It's surrender and obedience, right? We have this inner thing, I think many of us do. And we know what that is. And sometimes and we think sometimes it's tied to specific things, but it's just surrender and be obedient to it. Like me, I stopped obsessing about having money.
Yeah.
I realized, okay, money is a science. There's a science to it. I can make as little or as much as I want because I'm educating myself on the science of money. And so now I'm not going to obsess with making it. I'm going to eliminate that scarcity mindset. And it's a process because I freak out sometimes when I look at the stocks and I'm like, no, Lorraine, the world's on sale.
Yeah.
Tell yourself the world's on sale. Do not sell your stuff. Buy. And I have to get into those, those mindsets or what have you. But also just really saying, you know what, I'm just going to live life. I've lived a life on provision.
Yeah.
Where my beating orders were to provision, making money, getting money, providing, being a good mother, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Now it's purpose.
Right.
I live my life on purpose. And by the way, when you do that, the money just kind of follows it, right?
Yeah.
So what do you guys want to say? Because now we're concluding here. But I know that I've looked at your website and you have a couple different programs. So talk to the people out there listening. They're like, listen, I really want to talk to Lisa, find out about her programs. Talk about your programs and what you have out there and how they can get in contact with you. And then leave us with a little nugget.
A nugget?
Yeah.
Okay, so my business is in transition right now, which I'm happy to say is I'm growing and learning how to be something other than a private coach. And so with that, my programs are also growing. Ashley went through one of them called the Real Money Formula. If you don't have a relationship with money or you really don't know where your money is going, my world is for you. It doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, but if you want to get clarity in a simple way, in an approachable way, this is the right world for you. So you can go onto my website. There's even a lead magnet. You can get one of my money trackers and start to dance with your money and start to look at it.
I saw how in your workshop you all were dancing. I was like, oh, I love this. I need to go to her workshop.
I was a financial advisor and I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's too stuffy. I can't do it. So dancing and being free and being fun is really part of the feminine essence that I want to bring into the world of money. And the one nugget is be yourself. Be yourself. I'm going to steal it because she was my guest on my show, Poonam Mathur, who I just love and adore. She said, there's 8 billion people on this planet and we need you.
Ooh, I love that. That's so beautiful. Yeah, because you know what? There is only one you.
Yeah.
As many people as there are in this earth, there's never going to be another you. It will never be. I don't care if they clone you, do whatever. Your experiences, your life, every little detail to you is it.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that. What about you, Miss Ashley?
I know. I'm over here trying to think about what I'm actually going to say. Remind me now what you want.
So if people are out there and they're like, you know what, I need some financial planning. I need some help with this.
Yeah.
Where can they find you? And then what kind of nugget would you leave for people out there who are trying to work on their relationship with money?
Yeah. Well, one, I don't have a website, but I do have, you can go on @TruePlanningWithAsh on Instagram. You can DM me on there and reach out, or you can email me. And two, if I would just say, like, don't eliminate yourself from thinking like you don't have enough or you're not at a place yet that you need a financial planner. Like everyone needs someone. And I'm always happy to sit down. I'm not the person who's like, oh, you have to have like $500,000 assets under management to sit down with me. I'm not like that. Everyone needs someone in their life to like, hey, this is where you start. I've had clients where it's like, we just get organized. And I know Lisa hates budgets. I don't talk about that. The thing is I think from foundational standpoint, I think like being able to see what you have coming in and going out and like true, a budget sheet in that sense, but definitely like be able to spend your money and live life. But I would just say that just don't be embarrassed of what you have or don't have, or where you're at in life or where you think you should be. I think everyone should be reaching out to somebody in financial planning because this is what we do every day. It's realtors do real estate and CPAs do CPA stuff, so it's like reach out to someone who does this every day and like really cares about you, and just get started. That's like the first step is just to get started. So
yeah, I love it. I love it. At the end of the day, wealth is not measured by how much money you have. No. Wealth is measured by how much you value yourself.
Right.
And if you can tap into how valuable you are, because like what you said, you are valuable.
Yeah.
There's 8 billion and you're the one.
Yeah.
And if you can trust that and trust yourself, then everything else will flow after that.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for watching, ladies. Thank you for coming on. We got to I think we might need to do a part 2 on this and delve into some like serious like stuff, right? It would be great. But for those of you who are watching, please, again, do not forget to hit the subscription button. And until next time, ciao.